Hey guys, welcome to another Top 5. And today, Nathan, we're doing the flip side of what we did last week, which was the top 5 cars with manual transmission. So today we're doing
the top 5 vehicles with automatic transmissions. Now bear in mind, that isn't just a regular automatic transmission. That could be a CVT, it could be a DSG, it could be dual clutch. All those transmissions kind of all fit in this one category.
And if you're wondering why we're not mentioning the car that you love, it's because these are cars that we've driven.
Yes.
And cars that we get. So we don't get like Cherry or Tata or
Geely or
Peugeot, or there's a lot of Skoda,
Citroen.
Sia. Yeah, none of that. We only get these cars in America.
Yeah, North America. We're dealing with vehicles we've driven recently, so within the past, say, year or two.
Yep.
In many cases, some of the cars you guys suggest, which are awesome, well, maybe they've been out for a long time and we've already driven them years and years ago. Number 4, now this is for the Mercedes-Benz, either C-Class or E-Class with a 7-speed automatic transmission.
Yeah, and I just drove the C-Class Coupe. Actually, it was a coupe, yeah. It was a coupe.
Coupe.
Yeah, I didn't drive the convertible, but somebody else did in Europe. I was a little jealous of that, but I just drove the coupe, and it pairs very nicely to that car, right? It feels like it belongs in that vehicle. It's very much at home. It feels like it's making the most of the engine's torque curve. It's a very intuitive transmission in that you don't feel like it's hunting or picking the wrong gear when you floor it. It's right on top of it, so it downshifts right away. All the stuff that you want an automatic to do.
What I noticed, I drove the E-Class convertible with the V6, but it had the 7-speed, and that vehicle had 2 things going on. When I threw my foot down and really wanted to go, it became sportier. When I took it easy through town, it was an absolute luxury car, and I didn't touch any buttons or anything. I just let it do it on its own. The only issue I have is I really don't like the control stock for the transmission. It's kind of sort of like having, a transmission that you can select, but it's not. I'd rather have a lever that I can put it into gear with. But other than that, it's smooth.
Dude, the Germans are hell-bent on reinventing
I know.
how you control.
You are no longer allowed to put it in park. No, you have to have a button to put it in park or whatever.
Or stock, or the BMW.
Let's make something simple more complicated. But we love you, Germans. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to, number 3 is a big surprise for some of you guys, but we actually agree on this.
Yeah, it's for all you haters because, I'm always moaning the fact that I hate CVTs, and yet this CVT, and I didn't say that when I first drove it, but after having spent more time in the car, I actually have to agree, the CVT and the Maxima actually kind of work. Oh, it's hard to say.
It works great. Look, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, at least with this car. Continuously variable transmission, for those of you who don't know, essentially is a metal band that's working between 2 cones, and instead of having set gears, it basically is infinite. You can go from very low to very high gearing back and forth. And it's built for economy. It's rarely built for performance. However, the way Nissan did this transmission, which is, by the way, the same transmission that's in the Murano, it feels like an automatic. I guess is the easiest way to put it. It feels like an automatic transmission. It's not peaky, it's not loud, not a lot of lash, not a lot of vibration, and the car is fun to drive, partially due to that transmission.
Yeah, so the way that a CVT works is you've got a band that goes up and down this cone, right? And the idea, the reason the Japanese especially love CVTs is because you can have the engine in its optimal RPM point, right? So let's say it's most efficient at 3,000 RPM. You can keep that engine at 3,000 RPM, and when you floor the car, instead of the engine increasing RPM, the band moves up and down on that.
In order to secure as much torque as it needs to maintain that RPM.
And so what you get is you get this weird kind of feeling where the engine just stays at one constant RPM, and yet the vehicle is accelerating, and that is weird.
It is weird, and it's not very sporty under most circumstances, especially for passing and for some people who really like having a lot of sport. However, Nissan's managed to really squeeze in a very interesting transmission. It works almost like a 2-step transmission. They have funny names for all of their CVTs.
Yeah, so it emulates traditional. So instead of the usual CVT, like in a Prius, you floor it right, and it goes, and
yeah.
The Maxima goes,
it feels kind of like it's shifting. All it's really doing is that there's a computer control inside the engine actually that's saying, okay, drop it down, bring it up, drop it down, bring it up. And that's it. That's all it's doing. But it's still fast, and it still feels like an automatic transmission. And it feels a little bit more natural, but most importantly, it works with, over 300 horsepower.
which is really hard to believe because the very first CVTs were paired to, it was a Dutch car and it was paired to like a two-stroke 50 horsepower or less car.
And when was that? That was like
1960 or something.
What was
or
that
50.
like to drive?
I was just a young lad, Nathan.
Couldn't resist. Let's move on. So the
I was in
maximum.
my 30s.
It's easy for me nowadays. Number 2, and that's an interesting one. I don't necessarily fully agree with this, but you go and take it.
The Volkswagen DSG, they're dual clutch, and only with the gasoline engine. With the diesels, which are gone now.
Yeah, I know. They're gone, at least for now.
It didn't work that well, and there are issues with launching it. So they don't launch really well. But just driving it around town, it's got that wonderful immediate sense, almost like driving a sequential, right? It just throws those gears in, and it actually is faster 0 to 60 using the DSG than it is using the manual. Yeah.
Yeah, a little tiny bit faster, and they can be more efficient. However, I've noticed that, at least with the older DSGs that I've driven, they tend to roll back a little bit when you're about to take off at a light, just like a manual transmission would. And that's a little bit irritating for some people. And the other issue I had is that can be a little bit jerky when you're trying to drive smooth. If you just drive it normal, it's fine. But if you have a baby in the back seat and you're trying to be really smooth, of course it's going to be a little bit jerky. That's always what happens.
And fast.
But they are fast. And that's the thing. For those of you who want to go fast, it's one of the best ways to go fast.
Yeah, and it's a 6-speed, and I think Volkswagen actually brought very expensive technology down to the people's level, and you have to give them credit for that. As much as you might not like some of the other things they've done, that's one of the good things they've done. Number 1, Nathan.
Number 1, and this is another one I don't agree with Roman on, but it's the BMW 3 Series with the 8-speed automatic transmission.
Yeah, BMW, I think, builds some of the most sporty, some of the most fun to drive cars, and this is also true with their automatic. If you're going to have to get an automatic, get it in a BMW because it's got paddle shifters, it rips gears, it's intuitive, it's fuel efficient. The engine note is actually paired nicely to the transmission, so that there's this nice raspiness as you move up the gears. It just works.
I think Paul, our driver, really likes the automatic.
He does, and I agree with him.
But Paul's very short. And so what
does that have to do with the transmission?
Well,
especially automatic.
Especially an automatic, because he gets confused, there's no clutch, and he gets angry. No, but the real thing is, I really dislike the actual control unit, because it's a little flipper in order to get the thing in gear.
Oh, it's terrible.
You have to hit a button to put it into park. I just think that once again the Germans have made something simple unnecessarily complicated. That's my big gripe about it.
You go forward, you go in reverse.
Yeah, I know. It's a forward and reverse, and it would be a lot easier. Now, granted, there are other transmissions out there that you have to rotate or punch or hit or whatever. This is just one of the ones I don't like because of that. But in terms of it being smooth and sporty, I agree 100%.
All right, now we always like to throw in some most challenged automatics.
Do you want to do the bonus first?
No, I'm gonna leave that for the end.
Okay.
I'm gonna just tease it on purpose.
Please.
All right, so my most challenged automatic, and here we go again, guys. It's any CVT. I still hate them with a burning passion, so I'm kind of back to that. It's like having a pillow on top of your accelerator. They're hospitable, they're intuitive, and they're no fun to drive.
Yeah, in many cases that's true, and I would normally agree. But I've noticed a few have actually been pretty good. Actually, Nissan has a couple decent ones. The one in the Maxima we mentioned, and the one in the Nissan Juke, which is really sporty and fun. However, Nissan also provides one of the ones.
Yours.
The Nissan Versa, the regular Nissan Versa with the CVT is very difficult to drive and have fun. And if a car's not fun, in my book, it's not a good car.
Yeah, read SLOW.
Without a doubt. But it gets good mileage. Yay. Okay, let's move on to the bonus.
All right, the bonus. This is an interesting one, and it's interesting because it's a good automatic transmission in that it's in a lot of FCA vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Hellcat with the 8-speed.
Yep.
And it actually does really well in the Hellcat. And before we got the TFL Hellcat, I drove both the manual and the 8-speed, and people are like, why didn't you get, I love manuals.
I was the one who yelled at them about
Yeah, why didn't you buy the manual? Because the manual has issues. First and foremost, it is almost, well, I shouldn't say undrivable. It's very difficult to drive because that power is so great that it will spin its wheels in every gear, including 6th.
Yeah, I've heard that actually some of them have detonated.
Yeah, and then there are some reliability issues with that. We've heard stories of woe from people who have had issues with the manual transmissions.
And the bottom line is that the automatic transmission is actually faster 0 to 60 and in the quarter mile than the manual. I mean, I love the manual. I desperately want one of those with a manual, but I'm not looking forward to the repair bills when it detonates or when something flies off in my hand. The 8-speed automatic transmission in the Hellcat is an excellent transmission.
Yep, and there you have it. So our top 5, in this case 6, best automatic transmission cars.
And keep an eye out on Facebook and social media because we'll be announcing what time we're going to be broadcasting. And that way you guys can put your little messages below and then we'll read them back at the end, which we're going to be doing, well, right after we're done with this video.
As always, this is Roman.
And Nathan.
Saying thanks for watching, and check out tflcar.com for more news, views,
And real world reviews.
See you next time. Ciao.
Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in for another TFL Top 5. As always, I have my man
Nathan.
And today we're doing something really fun and something that you've asked for.
Absolutely. That you guys have actually suggested, and so here it is. It is the top 5 vehicles with a manual transmission.
The best top 5 vehicles with a manual transmission.
That we've driven.
And that's important because oftentimes there are a lot of comments from Europeans, and these are cars that we don't get. I'm thinking of Renault, Citroën, Seat, Skoda. So these are cars that we've driven that we get in America.
Fairly recently, too. There are cars that you guys have suggested from 5 or 6 years ago that it might be awesome, but they're no longer being built. Hence the Pontiac G8 or something like that.
Right.
You know, whatever.
Yeah. So Tatas are off the menu.
Yeah, they're off the please.
Tatra's off the menu.
Tatras are off as well. Yeah.